Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be looking at how to factorize cubics. Not cubies like that, looks like they're but cubics. Okay, so polynomials to a degree 3, so with x to the power 3. And we're going to be using the factor theorem to help us with that. And so let's just have a talk about that now. So if we've got a cubic, so the general sort of shape of a cubic is something like this, right? So you've got some sort of cubic that looks like that. And you've got your zeros. So remember, when we say zeros, we mean the x-intercept, so where the function is equal to 0. And we know that that if we put that x value there, so let's say that x is equals -3 there, and that's 1 there, and 3 there, whatever. If we put x equals 3 into the function, then it will equal 0. And so that helps us. What we can do is the factor theorem says that if k is a 0 of the polynomial, then if we substitute that into the polynomial, then we'll get 0. It just makes sense that we're going to get, the x-intercept. When we x-intercepts will give us the polynomial will be equal to 0 at that point. So that just makes sense. However, we can use that to our advantage. So in a second, we're going to be looking at trying to factorize that cubic there on the screen. So x cubed take away 5x squared plus 2x plus 8. And we're going to use that. How are we going to use it? We're going to guess. We're going to guess different x values, and we're going to see if we can put x values into there, substitute x values into there, and we're going to try to get 0. And if we get 0, as my answer, then that's it. There are x-intercepts, and we can go from there. And so I'll take you through the steps, and we'll have a look at that. So this is our polynomial. That's essentially our px there, our polynomial px. So I'll just write that down. Let's just say that that's equal to px, our polynomial. And what we're going to do is we're going to substitute values of x into there, and we hope that we're going to get 0. And if we do, we've struck gold, and we can sort of move on from there. Okay. So firstly, what numbers are we choosing to guess? Now, so what we're sort of doing here is that this is, because it's x cubic, there's sort of going to be like 3 factors, all right? So it's going to be x minus something there, x, plus something, whatever. It's going to look something like that. And because it's 3 factors, 3 things multiplied by each other, and if you think about that number, and that number, when you multiply all those numbers, those 3 numbers together, that last one will equal this positive 8. Okay, so it has to, so the last 3 numbers, it might be 1, 2, and 4, or it could be -1, -2, and 4. Whatever they are, they need to multiply together to give that positive 8. And so what that means when you're looking for these numbers, that you want to choose the factors of 8. So the numbers that we're going to try, and I'll just write these down. The numbers that we're going to try are, firstly, the factors of 8. So let's have a think about that. So we can try plus or minus 1. Remember, -1 is also a factor of 8. Plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4, and plus or minus 8. So they're all the factors of that, and they're all the possible numbers that we can try. Now, in an exam, they're not going to make the maths really hard, and take hours and hours. Usually, it's from the first couple. So it's like usually plus or minus 1 or plus or minus 2 as factors. So they're definitely the ones to try first. And let's now show you how that works. So let's try number 1 first. Let's put 1 in there. And what we're hoping for is to get 0. If we do, we've found a 0. So P1, let's substitute 1 in there. So that's 1. So I'll do the first one long. So 1 cubed minus 5 times 1 squared plus 2 times 1 plus 8. What does that equal? Well, I'll just write it out. 1 take away 5 plus 2 plus 8. Does that equal 0? 1 take away 5 is -4. -4 plus 2 is -2. So that is not equal to 0. That means that 1 is not a 0. Okay, didn't work. We're unlucky. Never mind. So now let's try -1. Okay, now we're going to substitute x equals -1 into my polynomial. So -1 cubed is -1. Minus 5 times x squared, so that's minus 5 times +1, so that's just minus 5. Plus 2x will be minus 2 and plus 8. Negative 1 take away 5 is negative 6. Negative 6 take away 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 8 equals 0. So we have found a 0. So therefore, negative 1 is a 0. See how we hit 0? So negative 1 is a 0. In other words, negative 1 is one of our x-intercepts. What that means, because negative 1 is 0, that means that x plus 1 is a factor. Okay, so if you remember that if negative 1 is a 0, then x plus 1 is a factor. If positive 2 was a 0, I don't know if it is, I'm just sort of showing you this, that means that x minus 2 is a factor. Okay, so hopefully that sort of makes sense. So we've found one of our factors. All right, how does that help us? Well, now what we're going to do is we know that x plus 1 is a factor. What we're going to do is say, well, therefore, our px is equal to, because it's x plus 1, we know one of them. Now we've got to figure out what's left over here. So what's left over there? And so we found out one of the factors, we need to still find the other two. To find this question mark, what we're going to do is to use long division to find that. And let's do that now. So this is exactly the same process as when you learnt long division in year 5 or year 6. You might have relearned it in year 7. But what we're essentially doing is to find out what this is equal to, we're going to divide by x plus 1, right? So we're going to divide by x plus 1 to find out what's left over on that side. Okay, so what we do is we've got px, so px was x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8. What we're going to do is we're going to divide that, sorry about my wonky lines, not very good at all, we're going to divide by x plus 1. Okay, and if we divide by that by x plus 1, the answer that we get is going to be this guy in here. That's going to be the leftover part, and so that's going to help us find that. Okay, so let's do that. And so the process is as follows. So I'm just going to come down here, try to get rid of all that, so keep it all nice and neat. Okay, so firstly, we need to ask ourselves, what do we need to multiply x by to make x cubed? Okay, what do we need to multiply x by to make x cubed? And so the answer is x squared. And so because we're multiplying by x squared, we put the x squared up in the x squared column. See how it's above the negative 5x squared? That's the x squared column. And then we multiply that by everything down here. So we multiply the x squared by that, and we multiply the x squared by the 1 as well. Okay. So what's x squared times x? Is x cubed, and so we put our x cubed down here. And what's x squared times positive 1? It's positive 1x squared. Okay, and so we've done that down there. Now the reason that we've done that is because we want this and this to cancel out when we subtract them. Okay, and that's why we tried to figure out what do we need to multiply x by to make x cubed, because we want those things to cancel out. Okay, so that's why we chose x squared. So now we subtract them. Okay, so now we subtract, and let's do it one thing at a time. So x cubed take away x cubed is 0, so that just disappears. I'm not even going to write 0 because that just disappears. Negative 5x squared take away x squared is negative 6x squared. So this process is exactly like long division with numbers, but we just got algebra in it now. But it's exactly the same process. If you remember it, maybe you don't remember it. Most people don't. That's okay. So that's the first iteration of this done, and then we do it again. Okay. Now, if you've got two numbers up here or two terms up here, then you always need to have the same number of terms down here. Okay. So at the moment, we've only got one term down there, so we need to bring another one down. So what we're going to do is bring down 2x down to here, and then we're going to repeat the process. So again, what do I need to multiply x by to get negative 6x squared? And the answer is negative 6x. Okay, so I know I need to multiply that by negative 6x, so I write negative 6x up here. And then I multiply that negative 6x by everything out the front. So I multiply that, and by that, where it's sort of multiplying that by everything there. Okay, so negative 6x times x is negative 6x squared. Again, you can see why, because they're going to cancel out. And negative 6x times positive 1 is negative 6x. Okay, and then we do a subtraction. Those first two cancel out. They're the same thing. And then remember subtracting. 2x take away negative 6x is going to be positive 8x. Okay, because we'll get double negative. So we're subtracting. 2x take away negative 6x is positive 8x. Great. That's the second iteration done. Third iteration, we need two terms down here, so we bring down the positive 8, and then we go again. What do we need to multiply x by to give us 8x? The answer is positive 8. So we put positive 8 up here, and that 8 multiplied by everything down the front. So 8 times x is 8x. 8 times positive 1 is positive 8. And if you've done everything correct, you should get this magical number of 0 at the bottom. Why should you get 0 at the bottom? It means that there's no remainder. That's your remainder down the bottom. And so if you don't get 0, you've done something wrong. Either x plus 1 is not a factor, or you've done some working out wrong in here. Okay, but we're all good. And so what we know now is, therefore, what this means is that x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8 is equal to x plus 1 multiplied by, and my answer was this here. That's what it's equal to. When we divided this by this, we got that. Okay, and so that means that the original polynomial is equal to x plus 1 times by x squared minus 6x plus 8. Okay, so that was the mystery thing here. So that is that missing part there, and that's a minus there. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now, we've done all the hard work now. We just need to finish off factorising this. So we've got x plus 1, and we just need to factorise the rest off. So let's have a look. And it's a quadratic, and so we just need to factorise that quadratic. So we've got positive 8. What factors of positive 8 do we have? We've got 4 and 2. Can we make negative 6 out of that? Yes, we can. We go minus 4 and 2, minus 4 and minus 2. Let me just check that. X squared minus 4x minus 2x is minus 6x plus 8. Yep, that's all correct. And so that is my answer, fully factorised, x plus 1 times x minus 4 times x minus 2. So just quickly, how did we start it? Well, first we had to make some guesses, and we tried the factors of that last constant there. So that tells you what the numbers could possibly be. Try the lowest numbers first because they're the easiest ones. Once you've found one of the zeros, write down what the factor is, and then divide by that factor using long division. That tells you what the remainder quadratic is there, and then factorize that quadratic to get your final answer. Hope that makes sense. See you in the next video.